Wonder why some people seem to have a magnetic effect on others? You've probably met someone who effortlessly draws people in, leaving them captivated and emotionally hooked. What if I told you that you could learn how to wield this kind of influence in your own life, especially when it comes to relationships? It's not about manipulation or playing games. It's about understanding the deep-rooted psychological triggers that create powerful emotional connections. This speech is for anyone who wants to not just attract a man, but truly make him emotionally addicted to the bond you share. Have you ever heard someone say, "He's just so drawn to her, he can't stay away"? Well, there's a reason for that. It's not magic and it's not luck. It's all rooted in psychological principles that drive human behavior. The truth is, there are very specific ways you can make a man emotionally attached to you. The methods I'll share with you today aren't just based on theory. They're backed by years of research into human psychology and attraction. These aren't tricks or quick fixes. They're fundamental changes you can make in how you approach relationships. Ready to learn how to make a man emotionally addicted to you? Let's dive in. First, understand that emotional addiction doesn't happen overnight. Just like a drug that creates dependency, you must create an emotional high that keeps him coming back for more. But how do you do that? The answer lies in creating deep emotional resonance. You see, emotions are powerful drivers in human behavior, and they don't just dissipate with time. They become deeply embedded in the psyche. Think of it like planting a seed in his heart and nurturing it until it grows. Through small, meaningful gestures, you can create an emotional dependency that he won't be able to resist. The first step to making a man emotionally addicted to you is to provide him with something that's both rare and valuable: your genuine, undivided attention. Men, like anyone else, crave validation, but it's often misunderstood as mere admiration. It's not about constant praise or flattery. It's about offering deep, intentional focus. When you're truly present with him, he can feel it. This isn't just about being physically there. It's about being mentally and emotionally tuned into his world. If you've ever experienced the profound feeling of someone listening to you with full attention, you'll understand why this makes such a powerful impact. Now, let's talk about emotional connection. It's not enough to just spend time together. You have to build intimacy, and I'm not just talking about physical intimacy. I'm talking about connecting on a deeper emotional level. To do this, you must make him feel seen, heard, and understood. The key to this is vulnerability. When you allow yourself to be vulnerable, you show him that you trust him with your emotions, and that trust fosters emotional intimacy. But be warned, vulnerability doesn't mean oversharing or dumping your problems on him. It's about revealing your authentic self in a way that invites him to open up as well. Have you ever noticed how some people just seem to get each other without saying much? That's the power of emotional alignment. When you can intuitively understand what he needs, whether it's a comforting word, a playful gesture, or space to think, you tap into a deep emotional connection. The key is to be attuned to his moods, needs, and desires, so you can respond in a way that resonates with him emotionally. This creates a feeling of emotional safety, something essential for creating lasting emotional bonds. The more you can predict what he needs, the stronger his emotional attachment to you becomes. Another powerful way to make a man emotionally addicted to you is through consistent and surprising acts of kindness. When you show thoughtfulness in unexpected ways, it keeps him on his toes. This could be something as simple as remembering his favorite snack or sending him a text when he's having a rough day. These small but meaningful actions create a positive emotional imprint that he'll associate with you. Over time, he'll start to crave that feeling of being cared for. You're not just making him feel good in the moment. You're creating a lasting sense of warmth that will emotionally tether him to you. But let's be real for a moment. Emotional addiction doesn't come without a little tension. You may have heard that absence makes the heart grow fonder. And it's true. Creating a little distance at the right moments can make him appreciate your presence even more. This doesn't mean playing hard to get, but rather giving him space to miss you. People tend to value what they don't always have, and this principle is no different when it comes to relationships. By balancing closeness and space, you allow the emotional connection to build in ways that create longing and desire. Now let's explore the concept of mystery. No one likes to feel like they have everything figured out. People are naturally drawn to what's unknown or intriguing. You don't have to reveal every detail about yourself all at once. In fact, The more you keep him guessing, the more emotionally engaged he will be. You don't need to withhold important aspects of yourself, but leaving a little bit to the imagination can create a sense of curiosity that draws him in deeper. Keep the mystery alive by unveiling new layers of your personality as your relationship progresses. At this point, you may be wondering, how can I make sure all of this works? Well, it's important to understand that making a man emotionally addicted to you doesn't mean controlling him. It means building a relationship rooted in genuine emotional reciprocity. You both need to be invested in the process. You want to foster an environment where both of you feel secure enough to share, open up, and be vulnerable without fear of judgment or rejection. That's where the real magic happens. Finally, remember that emotional addiction isn't about manipulation. It's about creating a healthy, fulfilling emotional bond that makes both of you feel valued and loved. The process requires patience, effort, and understanding. By creating emotional safety, offering vulnerability, and building deep intimacy, you set the stage for a powerful connection that can last a lifetime. If you follow these principles, you'll find yourself not just attracting a man, but creating an emotional bond so strong, he won't be able to resist coming back for more. Ready to take the next step? It all starts with understanding the power you hold in your hands. Let's take a moment to reflect on why emotions play such a huge role in relationships. The truth is, emotions are the key to forming any lasting bond. When you engage with someone on an emotional level, you're no longer just exchanging pleasantries or sharing surface-level conversations. No, you're touching the core of who they are. And that, my friends, is what creates a real, lasting emotional connection. What's even more fascinating is that this connection doesn't just happen through actions. It happens through shared experiences and understanding. Think about the people you're most emotionally connected to. What makes them so special? I guarantee it's not just what they do. It's how they make you feel. When you start focusing on creating emotional dependency in a healthy, nurturing way, you're not manipulating anyone. Instead, you're tapping into the essence of human connection. The more emotional needs you fulfill for him, the deeper his attachment to you will become. But the catch is this: it must feel genuine. Fake emotions are never as impactful as real ones, so if you're only pretending to care, you'll never build that real, lasting emotional bond. It's about being authentic and showing him that your connection isn't just about physical attraction, but about something much deeper, something that's rooted in emotional connection. One of the simplest yet most powerful ways to deepen a man's emotional addiction to you is through shared vulnerability. So often, we hide our true selves from others, afraid of being judged or rejected. But when you open up to him, when you allow him to see the raw, unfiltered you allow him to see that you trust him. Vulnerability is the foundation of intimacy, and intimacy is what makes someone emotionally addicted. When you show him that you're not perfect, that you have flaws and fears, you create an atmosphere where he feels safe doing the same. This, in turn, deepens his emotional attachment to you. Now let's talk about consistency. Have you ever been around someone who's constantly changing their behavior, being hot one moment and cold the next? That unpredictability is exhausting and confusing, and it rarely leads to strong emotional bonds. In contrast, consistency is like the anchor that keeps the relationship steady. When you're consistently attentive, supportive, and reliable, you create a sense of security. This security is exactly what a man needs in order to feel emotionally addicted to you. He'll begin to associate you with safety, trust, and reliability. And who wouldn't want to be around someone who makes them feel grounded in this chaotic world? Now, let's turn our attention to the role of positive reinforcement in building emotional addiction. This is an incredibly powerful tool when used correctly. Positive reinforcement doesn't just mean rewarding someone with gifts or praise, though those things do help. What I'm talking about is acknowledging the positive traits or behaviors in him that make him feel seen and appreciated. It could be a simple compliment on his intelligence or the way he handles tough situations. These small gestures of reinforcement not only make him feel valued, but they also encourage him to keep doing the things that strengthen your emotional bond. It's like planting seeds that grow into a deeper attachment. There's something incredibly powerful about shared experiences. Have you ever noticed how people who go through tough times together often form stronger bonds? It's because adversity has a way of bringing people closer. When you experience challenges together, you begin to trust each other more deeply. Whether it's a tough project at work, a personal crisis, or something as simple as working on a shared goal, overcoming challenges together creates a sense of shared history. This history forms a deeper emotional connection between you both, which can lead to an addiction to each other's presence. But let's take this a step further. What makes these shared experiences even more potent is the way you navigate them together. It's not just about experiencing something challenging. It's about how you handle it. When you show resilience, support, and the ability to stay emotionally steady in the face of adversity, you teach him that he can depend on you. He will start to see you as someone who can be there for him no matter what, and this builds trust, an essential foundation for emotional addiction. Another essential element in creating emotional dependency is to create positive associations. Think about it. When someone has an emotional experience tied to something positive, they naturally want to relive that experience. This is why taking him on fun dates, introducing him to new hobbies, or simply sharing joyful experiences together can make him emotionally addicted to the idea of being with you. These positive associations become imprinted in his mind, so much so that he starts to associate being with you with happiness, laughter, and warmth. And who doesn't want to be around someone who consistently brings positivity into their life? In addition to creating positive associations, it's important to offer him moments of emotional release. Men, like women, face stress and pressure, and sometimes they need a way to vent, to release those bottled up emotions. By being a safe space for him to do that, without judgment, you create a sense of emotional refuge. When you offer that kind of emotional release, you build a deep emotional bond that can become addictive. He'll crave that sense of comfort and understanding from you, and this will solidify his emotional attachment. The power of touch should not be underestimated either. It's been shown through research that physical touch plays a critical role in emotional bonding. Simple gestures like holding hands, hugging, or even just a reassuring touch on his arm can foster emotional intimacy. It's not about using touch to manipulate, it's about showing affection and warmth through physical connection. Touch releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone, which creates feelings of closeness and trust. Over time, this physical connection deepens the emotional attachment, making him emotionally addicted to your presence. Lastly, one of the most profound ways to make a man emotionally addicted to you is through continuous personal growth. When you show him that you're committed to improving yourself, whether it's through pursuing your passions, setting goals, or becoming the best version of yourself, you inspire him to do the same. This mutual growth creates a sense of partnership, where you both are not only emotionally invested in each other, but you're also invested in building a future together. This shared vision for the future is incredibly powerful in creating a lasting emotional bond. By now, you're beginning to see how each element of emotional connection builds upon the last. Each action, each word, each gesture has the potential to create a lasting impact. But what happens when you combine these principles together? When you consistently show up for him, stay true to yourself, and deepen your emotional bond, something extraordinary happens. You don't just build a relationship, you build an addiction, a powerful emotional tether that keeps him coming back for more. But there's still more to this emotional addiction process than just being there for him or showing affection. The next key factor in making a man emotionally addicted to you is emotional reciprocity. This means that the emotional investment has to be mutual. While you may be doing a lot to create that deep emotional bond, it's essential that he also feels equally invested. Relationships thrive when both people feel like they are giving and receiving in equal measure. If he sees you putting in the effort to build a deep connection and he mirrors that effort, you've created the foundation for a lasting emotional addiction. Emotional reciprocity means that he starts craving your emotional connection because it's something he actively contributes to, not just something you create on your own. But what happens when one person in the relationship isn't reciprocating the emotional effort? Well, that's where things can become tricky. If you constantly pour your energy into the relationship without seeing any return, you'll likely begin to feel emotionally drained. The key here is knowing when to step back and let him come to you. If a man truly values the connection, he will naturally start to meet your emotional needs as well. So be mindful not to overextend yourself in ways that may not be returned. If you allow him the space to invest emotionally, you'll find that he will become increasingly drawn to you, creating a balanced emotional bond that feels satisfying for both of you. Another powerful way to deepen emotional addiction is through the element of shared identity. When you make him feel as though the two of you are part of something bigger, whether it's a shared future, goals, or even a group of friends, you help form a collective emotional identity. People are naturally inclined to want to belong, and by weaving him into the fabric of your life, you create a sense of belonging that is tied to you. Think of it as building a shared narrative where both of you are the protagonists. When a man starts to see his future intertwined with yours, he will find it hard to break free from the emotional bond you've formed together. But there's another crucial element here: self-sufficiency. This may sound counterintuitive, but hear me out. A man becomes emotionally addicted to you, not just because you fulfill his needs, but because you also have your own life and passions. When you are self-sufficient, confident, and emotionally healthy on your own, it creates an attractive independence that draws him in. This is not about being distant or detached, but rather about showing him that you have your own identity. Men value a partner who is secure in themselves, and this sense of confidence is what keeps them emotionally hooked. Let's take a step back and look at emotional addiction from a psychological perspective. Human beings are wired for attachment. We seek emotional connections because they offer safety, comfort, and validation. When you build emotional security in a relationship, a man will naturally begin to develop a deeper emotional attachment to you. He will crave the sense of calm and assurance that comes from being with someone who makes him feel secure. This sense of safety doesn't just come from providing physical support. It also comes from emotional availability. If you are consistently there for him, understanding his fears and desires, you create a strong psychological bond that he will not easily let go of. In addition to emotional security, men are often attracted to women who create a sense of positive energy and optimism. Have you ever noticed how people gravitate toward those who exude warmth and positivity? This doesn't mean you have to be upbeat 24/7, but cultivating an emotionally nurturing environment is key. When you create a space where he feels safe to express himself, free from judgment, you're reinforcing emotional dependency. This nurturing energy creates an emotional home for him, one that he will keep coming back to. He will emotionally associate you with comfort, and that association will lead to a stronger bond. One powerful tool that can build an emotional connection and keep it strong is emotional resilience. This is the ability to navigate challenges without letting them pull you apart. Relationships, no matter how perfect they seem, face difficulties. What matters is how you handle those challenges together. If you're able to show emotional resilience, remaining steady during times of stress, you create a sense of stability that's incredibly attractive. He will admire your ability to remain calm under pressure and depend on you in moments of uncertainty. This kind of emotional resilience builds trust, which deepens emotional addiction. Let's not forget about the importance of shared values. Emotional addiction isn't just built on physical attraction or small acts of kindness. It's rooted in a deep alignment of values. What do you believe in? What are your core principles? When you share similar values with someone, it creates a powerful emotional connection that goes beyond surface-level attraction. Whether it's shared goals for the future, similar beliefs about family, or even just a mutual passion for certain hobbies, these shared values create a deeper sense of attachment. This connection runs deeper than attraction. It becomes an emotional bond that ties your hearts together. If you really want to make a man emotionally addicted to you, it's essential to tap into his emotional needs. Men, like women, need love, affection, appreciation, and understanding, but their emotional needs are often expressed differently. By paying close attention to how he communicates, you can better understand what makes him feel emotionally fulfilled. This understanding allows you to cater to those needs in ways that he will find hard to resist. He will begin to see you as someone who not only understands him, but also meets his emotional needs in ways that no one else can. Finally, when it comes to creating emotional addiction, one of the most critical elements is emotional reciprocity. You want to make sure that both of you are giving and receiving in the relationship. A one-sided dynamic can lead to burnout and dissatisfaction. The goal is not just to make him emotionally addicted to you, but to build a relationship where both of you are emotionally invested. This balanced approach will ensure that both of you feel deeply connected and valued in ways that make the emotional bond unbreakable. It's about fostering mutual respect, care, and appreciation. It's easy to think that once you've reached a certain level of emotional attachment, everything falls into place. But the reality is, emotional addiction isn't static. It's dynamic, meaning it needs constant nurturing and care. Think of it like a plant that requires daily attention, light, and water. If you neglect it, it will wither. But if you invest in it consistently, it will grow into something beautiful and strong. So, when you've reached a point where a man feels emotionally connected to you, it's crucial that you continue nurturing that bond. The emotional addiction you've created can grow deeper, but it also requires effort to keep it thriving. So what happens when you've built this emotional dependency and you're feeling the pull of your connection growing stronger every day? That's the sweet spot where the magic happens. The point where your relationship is not just a bond, but an emotional addiction. But don't forget, while creating emotional dependency is powerful, it's just as important to continue growing yourself and your life outside of the relationship. Maintaining your independence and personal growth ensures that the emotional connection remains healthy, strong, and balanced. A man will be more emotionally hooked to you if he sees that you have your own passions and life outside the relationship, and he will be inspired to do the same. This balance of emotional attachment and personal growth is one of the most critical aspects of creating a long-lasting bond. Imagine if you both become emotionally dependent on each other, but are also each thriving in your personal endeavors. The attraction between the two of you grows even stronger. You both start to see each other as individuals who support each other's growth while being each other's emotional anchor. That mutual respect and admiration for each other's independence will only add to the emotional dependency. It's a beautiful cycle, emotional need and personal growth feeding into each other. But we cannot ignore the fact that relationships are complex and emotions can be fragile. You may find that, in the pursuit of emotional addiction, things occasionally become difficult or uncertain. And in those moments of difficulty, it's important to understand the significance of emotional self-regulation. Emotional self-regulation refers to the ability to manage your own emotions and responses in a relationship. This is particularly important when it comes to making a man emotionally addicted to you, because when you can keep your own emotions in check, you create a stable environment for the relationship to grow. It's about responding thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively. There's another psychological principle at play here, the principle of positive reinforcement. When you reinforce a man's emotional investment with positive emotions, whether it's through affection, words of appreciation, or moments of shared joy, you increase the chances of him becoming emotionally dependent on you. Each time you validate his emotions, he feels more secure, more valued, and ultimately more attached. The more he associates being with you with positive experiences, the more emotionally hooked he becomes. So never underestimate the power of positive reinforcement. It's not about rewarding bad behavior, but acknowledging and validating the positive contributions he brings to the relationship. One key component to emotional addiction that is often overlooked is the importance of shared rituals. Creating small rituals or routines together is a subtle yet powerful way to strengthen emotional ties. Think about the little things that the two of you do together, whether it's having a morning coffee together, watching a specific show, or taking a walk after dinner. These shared moments create a unique bond, one that he begins to associate with comfort, security, and emotional connection. Rituals create predictability and stability, which are important elements for forming long-lasting emotional attachments. But even within rituals, there needs to be space for spontaneity. Routine can become a form of comfort, but introducing surprise and unpredictability into your relationship keeps the emotional connection alive. When you occasionally surprise him with something new, be it a fun date idea, a thoughtful gesture, or even just a spontaneous compliment, you break the monotony and add an element of excitement to the relationship. This excitement is what keeps him coming back, emotionally dependent on the energy and joy you bring into his life. We've talked about how emotional attachment is built through consistency, vulnerability, and shared moments, but what about emotional recovery? Every relationship, no matter how perfect, faces challenges, disagreements happen, conflicts arise. But the key to making a man emotionally addicted to you during these challenging moments is your ability to help him emotionally recover. How you handle conflict will either deepen or weaken the emotional connection. If you approach conflict with empathy, patience, and understanding, you provide a safe space for him to open up, express his feelings, and most importantly, feel heard. This emotional recovery strengthens the bond between the two of you, ensuring that the addiction doesn't falter in the face of difficulty. One of the most underrated but powerful ways to deepen emotional addiction is through the power of emotional attraction. Emotional attraction is different from physical attraction. It's not about looks or superficial qualities. It's about how someone makes you feel, how they touch your soul. When you emotionally attract someone, they begin to crave your presence not just because of what you look like, but because of the emotional energy you bring into their life. You attract them through your emotional intelligence, your ability to make them feel understood, safe, and cared for. This emotional attraction is what keeps a man coming back for more. The next crucial piece of the emotional addiction puzzle is the concept of emotional exclusivity. This doesn't mean being possessive or controlling. It's about creating a unique emotional bond that feels special and irreplaceable. When you make a man feel like he's the only one who can truly understand and appreciate your emotional world, you deepen his attachment. This doesn't mean you shouldn't have other meaningful relationships, but it does mean that your relationship with him should feel uniquely valuable. He will begin to crave that special connection, becoming emotionally addicted to the one person who truly gets him, you. One final element that solidifies emotional addiction is respect. Without mutual respect, emotional attachment will always remain shallow. Respect is the foundation of any healthy, lasting relationship, and it goes hand in hand with emotional addiction. When you show respect for a man's feelings, thoughts, and needs, he will begin to feel deeply emotionally tied to you. He will respect you in return and feel that the emotional connection between you is one of equal value. And that respect creates a bond that is not easily broken. As we continue to deepen our understanding of emotional addiction in relationships, it's essential to recognize that this process is not about manipulation. It's about creating a bond that's mutually fulfilling and healthy. The idea is not to trap him, but rather to foster a connection so powerful that he cannot help but want to stay, not out of obligation, but out of a true emotional craving for you. This is the beauty of emotional addiction. It's not forced. It's a natural byproduct of creating a deeply meaningful and emotionally charged relationship. But achieving this requires a constant commitment to growth, vulnerability, and intentional effort. When you consistently show up emotionally for someone, there's a profound psychological effect. People are naturally drawn to those who make them feel seen and heard. By being an active listener and showing genuine interest in his thoughts, feelings, and concerns, you make him feel valued. This is one of the most powerful ways to build emotional addiction. You're not just a passive participant in the relationship, you're someone who actively engages with his emotional world. And when someone feels like they matter to you, they'll find it incredibly hard to walk away from that connection. Your emotional availability and attentiveness will anchor him to you. Moreover, it's crucial to understand that emotional addiction isn't just about constant emotional closeness. It's about balance, knowing when to give space, and knowing when to connect on a deeper level. If you're always smothering him with attention, it could lead to emotional burnout and even drive him away. Giving him space to breathe, think, and grow on his own actually strengthens the emotional bond because it allows him to miss you. When you create moments of distance without disconnecting emotionally, you encourage longing, and longing leads to an emotional pull that keeps him coming back to you. When thinking about emotional addiction, think of it as a finely tuned instrument. Each action you take, each word you say, adds to the emotional symphony between the two of you. But there's a crucial component: self-awareness. The more emotionally aware you are of your own needs, desires, and boundaries, the better equipped you are to create that same level of emotional awareness in him. Self-awareness breeds authenticity, and authenticity is magnetic. It draws people in because it creates trust and a sense of safety. By being authentic with him, you allow him the space to be his true self with you. This creates an emotional connection that's deep and genuine. When you show him that you accept and love him for exactly who he is, flaws and all, you allow him to drop his emotional guard. It's in this space of emotional vulnerability and acceptance that the most meaningful connections are born. Think about it. How often do we try to hide parts of ourselves because we're afraid of rejection? But when you embrace him for who he is, without judgment, you show him that he is loved unconditionally. This unconditional acceptance doesn't just create a sense of emotional security, it creates emotional addiction. He becomes emotionally addicted to the feeling of being loved and accepted for his truest self, and that addiction is powerful. Now let's talk about the importance of emotional reciprocity in greater detail. This is where the relationship becomes truly reciprocal, not just in terms of what you give, but in how much you both emotionally invest. It's not enough to simply do all the emotional work on your side. There must be a mutual exchange of energy. A man who feels emotionally addicted to you is one who is equally invested in the relationship. He will begin to mirror your emotional actions, providing support, care, and attention in return. This emotional reciprocity ensures that the bond grows both ways. Without it, the emotional connection would remain unbalanced and addiction would not be sustainable. One aspect of emotional addiction that is often misunderstood is the notion of emotional independence. What does emotional independence mean in the context of a deeply attached relationship? It's the ability to maintain your sense of self while being emotionally invested in your partner. When you're emotionally independent, you're not looking for your partner to fulfill all of your emotional needs, but rather, you're sharing your emotional life with him. This dynamic allows the relationship to thrive because both people maintain their individual emotional health while creating a strong shared bond. Ironically, emotional independence is a crucial element of making a man emotionally addicted to you. It allows him to feel more free to be emotionally available without feeling suffocated. As you continue to build emotional addiction, never underestimate the importance of the little things, the small gestures that show you care. It's easy to get caught up in grand romantic gestures or big shows of affection. But the truth is that it's the small, consistent acts that build a lasting emotional connection. Whether it's a thoughtful text, an inside joke, or remembering something small about his day, these gestures communicate that you're emotionally invested in him. It's through these small acts of care that a man starts to feel emotionally tied to you, and he will crave that emotional closeness. Emotional addiction also thrives in the moments of excitement and passion. Let's not forget that passion plays a huge role in deepening emotional attachment. When you introduce new experiences into your relationship, whether they're thrilling or deeply intimate, you create an emotional high that strengthens your bond. This excitement keeps the emotional connection vibrant and alive. Whether it's trying new activities together, going on spontaneous adventures, or exploring deeper emotional or physical intimacy, these experiences reinforce the emotional addiction. Passion is what fuels desire, and desire is what keeps the emotional attachment strong and ever-growing. When it comes to emotional addiction, one factor that can't be overlooked is emotional stability. A man will become emotionally addicted to you when he feels that he can rely on you to be emotionally steady, even in challenging situations. Life is unpredictable, and everyone faces difficulties. But it's your ability to remain calm, understanding, and emotionally balanced that will attract him. When you show emotional stability, you become a source of comfort, security, and dependability. And when he knows he can rely on you during tough times, he will begin to emotionally depend on you even more. Another element that creates emotional addiction is the sense of shared goals. When you and your partner have common goals, whether it's related to your future, your values, or even day-to-day life, you create a sense of partnership that ties you together emotionally. This shared sense of purpose creates emotional intimacy and strengthens your bond. A man will feel emotionally connected to you when he sees you both working toward the same goals. He'll crave that sense of teamwork and shared vision. Shared goals are not just about what you achieve together. They're about what you both stand for and how you align with each other's dreams. Finally, never forget that emotional addiction doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process that builds over time. It requires patience, effort, and a genuine commitment to creating an emotional connection that lasts. But when you invest in these emotional elements, vulnerability, reciprocity, support, and consistency, you create a bond that cannot be easily broken. A man who feels emotionally addicted to you will continuously be drawn to the love and support you offer, and he will find himself wanting to stay, not out of obligation, but because your emotional connection has become essential to his happiness and well-being. As we conclude this journey into the complexities of creating an emotionally addictive bond, let's take a moment to appreciate the depth of what you've learned. Emotional addiction isn't just about making someone crave your presence. It's about creating a lasting, meaningful connection that's rooted in mutual respect, vulnerability, and growth. If you've done the work, invested in the connection, and stayed true to yourself, you've created something far beyond simple attraction. You've fostered a relationship that's deeply fulfilling and sustainable. One where emotional dependency is not forced, but developed naturally through mutual affection and trust. But let's not mistake emotional addiction for a relationship based on neediness. Emotional addiction doesn't mean you're emotionally dependent on him in the unhealthy sense. Instead, it's about interdependence, the beautiful balance between giving and receiving, loving and being loved. You should never feel like you're trying to trap a man into loving you. What you want is for him to emotionally depend on you because he feels fulfilled, cared for, and valued. Emotional addiction thrives on the idea of two people coming together to create something bigger than the sum of their parts. When you both feed into this emotional bond, it becomes a mutually rewarding experience. One of the most powerful ways to deepen emotional addiction is by helping him feel seen and understood. This is where emotional intelligence plays a huge role. When you're able to read his emotions, understand his needs, and intuitively respond to them, you create an atmosphere of trust and intimacy. He starts to crave your presence because he feels like you get him in a way that no one else can. Emotional intelligence helps you to tune into his emotional world and respond in ways that make him feel secure and validated. When someone feels truly seen, they are naturally drawn to the person who offers that level of understanding. At the same time, making him feel validated emotionally can sometimes mean giving him the space to express his vulnerabilities. We all have things we're afraid of, and men, too, need a safe space to share their fears, insecurities, and hopes. When you create an environment where he feels comfortable being open and vulnerable, he will begin to associate you with emotional safety. This emotional safety is what deepens the connection and builds addiction. He'll crave the emotional refuge you provide, making you indispensable to his emotional well-being. But emotional addiction doesn't come without challenges. Relationships will face obstacles. But here's the crucial part. When you and your partner encounter difficulties, it's important to navigate those challenges with emotional resilience. Think of resilience as the glue that keeps the relationship together during tough times. When you face conflict with calmness, understanding, and compassion, it signals to him that you're someone he can depend on emotionally. He will begin to rely on you not just for love and affection, but also for emotional strength. In difficult moments, this resilience is what keeps him emotionally addicted to you because he knows you are a steady force in his life. The next step is about fostering emotional depth. This can be achieved by consistently bringing new dimensions into the relationship. The more layers of emotional experience you share, the stronger the emotional connection becomes. Think about the first time you fell for someone. There was excitement, the rush of new emotions, and the thrill of discovery. To create emotional addiction, you must continue to explore each other's inner world. You can do this through deep conversations, sharing intimate thoughts, or exposing hidden parts of yourself. When a man sees new layers of you, it increases his emotional investment and dependence because he's continuously discovering something new that ties him closer to you. Similarly, emotional attraction isn't static, it evolves. You cannot rely on just one aspect of your relationship to keep a man emotionally hooked. This means continually evolving as individuals and as partners. Growth is key. As he sees you evolving and progressing, not just in your relationship but in your personal life, it makes him feel emotionally dependent on you because he can't imagine a future without your presence in it. Change can be scary, but it can also be exhilarating. The more you both grow together, the stronger the emotional addiction becomes, because he knows he's part of something that's constantly progressing, something bigger than the sum of its parts. An often overlooked component of emotional addiction is the way you respond to his needs. Men, just like women, have emotional needs that must be met in order for them to feel emotionally attached. However, these needs often differ in subtle ways. A man may not always express his emotions in the same way that you do. But by paying attention to the subtle cues in his behavior, you can identify what he requires emotionally. The key is to meet those needs without feeling overwhelmed or losing your own sense of self. When a man feels that his emotional needs are being met, he will start to feel emotionally dependent on you because you've become the source of his emotional fulfillment. However, this process is not a one-time effort. Emotional addiction requires consistent and ongoing effort. It's not enough to simply check the boxes once and expect the relationship to thrive. It takes patience, effort, and above all, the desire to create a lasting emotional bond. You must show up every day, not just for him, but also for yourself. When you nurture your own emotional health, you're better able to nurture the emotional connection between you and your partner. This creates a dynamic where both of you are continually evolving together rather than growing apart. Another powerful element of emotional addiction is the sense of security you create in the relationship. A man who feels emotionally secure in his relationship will naturally become more emotionally dependent on it. He will crave your presence not out of neediness, but because he knows that being with you is where he feels most comfortable and most himself. This emotional security comes from mutual trust, consistency, and the knowledge that you will be there for him no matter what. When he knows he can rely on you, he will emotionally depend on you in ways that deepen the relationship. Let's talk about the importance of surprise and excitement in emotional addiction. We all know that relationships can become mundane if they aren't constantly fed with new experiences. While consistency and stability are important, it's equally essential to keep things fresh and exciting. Surprise him with something spontaneous, introduce new experiences into the relationship, and keep the emotional excitement alive. This unpredictability adds an element of desire and longing to the relationship. When you introduce new experiences and emotions, it keeps him hooked because he never quite knows what's coming next. This unpredictability maintains the emotional high, which is what strengthens emotional addiction. Lastly, emotional addiction is reinforced by the way you make him feel about himself. A man who feels emotionally validated by you will begin to feel emotionally addicted to the way you make him feel. When you praise his accomplishments, support his growth, and appreciate his efforts, you foster a sense of emotional fulfillment that he cannot find elsewhere. He starts to crave the way you make him feel, and that craving becomes an addiction. He will begin to associate you with the positive emotions he feels when he's with you. This is why compliments, appreciation, and recognition are so vital in any relationship, because they reinforce his emotional attachment to you. Do you ever wonder why some people seem to have a magnetic effect on others? You've probably met someone who effortlessly draws people in, leaving them captivated and emotionally hooked. What if I told you that you could learn how to wield this kind of influence in your own life, especially when it comes to relationships? It's not about manipulation or playing games. It's about understanding the deep-rooted psychological triggers that create powerful emotional connections. This speech is for anyone who wants to not just attract a man, but truly make him emotionally addicted to the bond you share. Have you ever heard someone say, "He's just so drawn to her, he can't stay away"? Well, there's a reason for that. It's not magic and it's not luck. It's all rooted in psychological principles that drive human behavior. The truth is, there are very specific ways you can make a man emotionally attached to you. The methods I'll share with you today aren't just based on theory. They're backed by years of research into human psychology and attraction. These aren't tricks or quick fixes. They're fundamental changes you can make in how you approach relationships. Ready to learn how to make a man emotionally addicted to you? Let's dive in. First, understand that emotional addiction doesn't happen overnight. Just like a drug that creates dependency, you must create an emotional high that keeps him coming back for more. But how do you do that? The answer lies in creating deep emotional resonance. You see, emotions are powerful drivers in human behavior, and they don't just dissipate with time. They become deeply embedded in the psyche. Think of it like planting a seed in his heart and nurturing it until it grows. Through small, meaningful gestures, you can create an emotional dependency that he won't be able to resist. The first step to making a man emotionally addicted to you is to provide him with something that's both rare and valuable: your genuine, undivided attention. Men, like anyone else, crave validation, but it's often misunderstood as mere admiration. It's not about constant praise or flattery. It's about offering deep, intentional focus. When you're truly present with him, he can feel it. This isn't just about being physically there. It's about being mentally and emotionally tuned into his world. If you've ever experienced the profound feeling of someone listening to you with full attention, you'll understand why this makes such a powerful impact. Now, let's talk about emotional connection. It's not enough to just spend time together. You have to build intimacy. And I'm not just talking about physical intimacy. I'm talking about connecting on a deeper emotional level. To do this, you must make him feel seen, heard, and understood. The key to this is vulnerability. When you allow yourself to be vulnerable, you show him that you trust him with your emotions and that trust fosters emotional intimacy. But be warned, vulnerability doesn't mean oversharing or dumping your problems on him. It's about revealing your authentic self in a way that invites him to open up as well. Have you ever noticed how some people just seem to get each other without saying much? That's the power of emotional alignment. When you can intuitively understand what he needs, whether it's a comforting word, a playful gesture, or space to think, you tap into a deep emotional connection. The key is to be attuned to his moods, needs, and desires, so you can respond in a way that resonates with him emotionally. This creates a feeling of emotional safety, something essential for creating lasting emotional bonds. The more you can predict what he needs, the stronger his emotional attachment to you becomes. Another powerful way to make a man emotionally addicted to you is through consistent and surprising acts of kindness. When you show thoughtfulness in unexpected ways, it keeps him on his toes. This could be something as simple as remembering his favorite snack or sending him a text when he's having a rough day. These small but meaningful actions create a positive emotional imprint that he'll associate with you. Over time, he'll start to crave that feeling of being cared for. You're not just making him feel good in the moment. You're creating a lasting sense of warmth that will emotionally tether him to you. But let's be real for a moment. Emotional addiction doesn't come without a little tension. You may have heard that absence makes the heart grow fonder. And it's true. Creating a little distance at the right moments can make him appreciate your presence even more. This doesn't mean playing hard to get, but rather giving him space to miss you. People tend to value what they don't always have, and this principle is no different when it comes to relationships. By balancing closeness and space, you allow the emotional connection to build in ways that create longing and desire. Now let's explore the concept of mystery. No one likes to feel like they have everything figured out. People are naturally drawn to what's unknown or intriguing. You don't have to reveal every detail about yourself all at once. In fact, the more you keep him guessing, the more emotionally engaged he will be. You don't need to withhold important aspects